So yes, this meeting was set up for the environmental groups and the volunteers that are helping us to do our recycling within the villages. But then we decided actually it would be a great opportunity to invite parish councillors and maybe some of the district councillors along. So I'm pleased to say that we've got Helen Peacock, the environmental officer from Horsham District Council, and the new councillor for rural affairs and the environment, councillor James Wright, with us as well tonight to share the absolutely incredible, amazing work that's going on in Horsham District. So most of you know who I am, and I'm really not going to bore you with the details of Sussex Green Living, but I wanted to share this family tree, organisational tree with you to show that many incredible, amazing volunteers that are working with us and leading specific projects. I actually set up Sussex Green Living. I'm going to hopefully share my slides. Whoops. So that's our agenda. So I set up Sussex Green Living in 2012. I'm just going to give you a really quick overview for those that haven't heard of Sussex Green Living before. My aim as a mum was to build a network of individuals and of families, ultimately businesses and other groups, to go on a journey to reduce their carbon footprint and take with us as many people as we can on that journey. So it was a network that we wanted to form. And one of our earliest projects was the TerraCycle single-use plastic recycling. In the very early days in 2012, I actually trained, as did Jill Shuker, who's one of our trustees, and we trained as West Sussex County Council Waste Prevention Advisors. Hence, really, our longest standing environmental project is TerraCycle, which you see here. We started in Billingshurst and Horsham, actually. The network grew. And I'm going to jump a few years because we won't have enough time. So in 2017, our network really grew because Jill and I, with the help of the Horsham Quakers, founded the Horsham Repair Cafe. It was the first repair cafe in West Sussex, and subsequently Jill and I have actually helped to mentor about 12, if not more, repair cafes in Sussex and the surrounding area, 3 within Horsham District. So our network, really expanded, which was really exciting. Then Nicola Peel, who's here with us tonight as well. Nicola and I actually organised an event in 2019 on World SOS Climate Emergency Day. It was a meeting of environmental groups from mainly Surrey, mainly West Sussex. You can see us in the photo top left. And out of that meeting, the South East Climate Alliance was born. Jeff Baynard, who obviously leads Seeker, as we call it, is here tonight, and many of the steering group members are here tonight. So our network expanded once again. And then this slide just really quickly shows you, I hope you can see it, my screen's cluttered with Zoom navigation. But this slide actually shows Horsham District without the boundaries, but it shows actually the single-use plastic recycling locations and hence volunteers in those different villages, pretty much as they formed over the years since our launch on Earth Day in 2012. And there I've plotted in orange some of the repair cafes as they formed. So our network continues to grow. There you go. Let's see if I can. There we go. And then I'm going to jump forwards to 2021. So lots of things have gone on in 2021. We have been, which you'll see from some of the subsequent slides, we've been really busy, mainly in Horsham District, but also working in many of the other districts within West Sussex, attending, participating, supporting events, but also running events throughout the county. And here we are here's the Inspiration Eco Station, the love of my life, a milk float, a 1974 milk float, which last winter or early last year, we secured a Horsham District Council Community Climate Grant of £5,000 and a Sussex Community Foundation grant of £5,000, which got our milk float retrofitted with the help of wonderful volunteers and on the road. And yet most of those events that you saw on the previous slide were events that were supported with myself, volunteers, and the Inspiration Eco Station. Other projects, the Inspiration Eco Station has been out to many events with our Bright New Future Roadshow partners. So Nicola Peel and Keith, top left, with his, I think it's an oboe, playing the Bright New Future Eco game show, and Clive Cobby, who's probably here with us tonight, with his mobile woodland theatre truck. And yeah, we've been out to amazing events, and really it's a pop-up environmental festival, really. Then bottom right, or on the right, we've got the Sussex Green Hub, which we launched on the 25th of September, thanks to donations from John Lewis and Waitrose in Horsham, and loads of amazing volunteers, many of them here tonight. And yeah, throughout last year, our Bright New Future Roadshow, the float, and our partners, we actually worked with 24 schools, about 1,500 young people, mainly in West Sussex, but quite a few events were in East Sussex as well. So we've been busy. We also have a Youth Eco Forum, so young people aged 12 to 18 who meet to share their hopes, their fears, their ideas and their actions. So yeah, we've got a new members taster event next week, if anyone knows anyone of that age that might like to join it. And then finally, we've had a display, and we've been offering green chat in the pop-up Horsham shop. It's a shop owned by Horsham District Council, and it's a collaborative shop. So yeah, many new businesses getting the opportunity to try the high street, and that's been a really interesting experience. So I am now about to jump to their findings in the villages. So here on the next two slides, I want to share the incredible work throughout Horsham District of individuals, of environmental groups, and in many instances, actually, in some instances anyway, certainly supported by parish councillors. So can you all see it all right? I'm about a bit on my own here, I can't see anyone. Hopefully you can all see it okay. So yeah, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. So I have included a few villages that are not so active, that I really hope in 2022, through the volunteers that we've got in those villages, i.e. Ashington, and right at the very bottom, I don't know if you can see it, Washington. I really hope we're going to get more activity in those areas. But you can see along the row with the percentage, so that's the number of villages that are working on that specific type of project. The orange is obviously TerraCycle, where we're working in partnership with those villages. Yeah, I will share the video blog and this PowerPoint presentation with these graphics as soon as possible after this meeting. And then I want to share the next slide. There we go. So on this slide, I've repeated the men's sheds and repair cafes I'll explain the reason why, and our carbon footprint project. So the repair cafes, I'm going to get Jeff to speak about a little bit further on into the meeting, but they have been a really, really successful outreach initiatives in all the areas where they've been set up. I wanted to mention the men's sheds here because I've discovered recently in gleaning these stats and facts that Pulborough, I think, yes, Linfold, and also Billingshurst are developing men's sheds, and they're actually a little bit of a morph between a repair cafe and a men's shed, which I think is a really interesting model that's starting to evolve in the villages. And then over on the right-hand side of this spreadsheet, you'll see Sussex Green Living. So in some instances, we've actually worked with the village, our volunteer or the environmental group, to actually go into the schools and deliver assemblies and green days in the schools, focusing on the recycling to help to launch the recycling programme that those volunteers are running in that village. In other instances, you can see we've just been out to school with our own contacts, not necessarily linked to the recycling. You can see the number of times we took the float to that. Well, you can see the villages where we've taken the float. In many instances, Horsham, Pulborough, Billingshurst, yeah, many of the villages we've actually been more than once to those villages. And then on the right, I hope you can see we've started to plot in where we've got an invitation to the villages in 2022. It's looking busy over the Platinum Jubilee weekend. And that's one of the things I'll come to a little bit later on, actually asking you whether there are opportunities for us to come to your village. There's a final column, which is other activities, which when you receive the information, you'll be able to see. There are all sorts of incredible, unique projects going on in the villages, which it would be fantastic to be able to share. So we are very keen to try and find out whether there's a way that we, Sussex Green Living, not just me, but the amazing volunteers that we're working with, whether we can actually act as like a knowledge hub and a mentoring, a signposting service between the villages, as Mark mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. So yeah, and then I'm just going to actually let me come to that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I think you've heard enough of my voice, and I'm going to come back. And at this point, I'd actually like to introduce Christian, who's a relatively new volunteer for Sussex Green Living. He's very, very kindly taken on our carbon work and been working on our Small Green Steps carbon survey. But I'll hand over to you now, Christian.
Hello everyone. Right, sorry, I just put my screen on again just to say hi, but I'm actually going to turn it off again for the sake of the bandwidth. Now, recently, I've been working through some of the data from the Small Green Steps survey. The survey had told us some positive trends, but again, there are areas where we can improve upon this, but it has been quite useful in especially being an educational tool and also spreading awareness too. And what I intend to start to pioneer is the Carbon Clinic Domestic Survey, which hopefully, well, not hopefully, I will be there on the 29th, this coming Saturday. But I want to start kind of trying to get together some people that would like some advice on how they can save carbon and make their lives more sustainable in the first time I actually run it live. I did last time we got together just before Christmas. I did turn up and I kind of got a few ideas from people, sitting with them, sharing some ideas of what we could add to it. But hopefully I'm going to be having the final rendition of what we're doing there. And I'll just read my mission statement now. Apologies if it seems very first person, but I have written it in a Word document. I'm going to pretty much be reading from it. So, in working with the Sussex Green Living Hub, I hope to contribute to the goals of Sussex Green Living by using my academic knowledge of environmental systems and technology to aid gathering data and educating our general public who seek health by offering sustainable solutions to everyday life. Data gathered on trends in the personal practices will enable me to identify knowledge gaps in the Horsham public and produce digital media content, this in the form of infographics, pamphlets, posters, or anything like that, to be able to spread our message and hopefully show people that there is a cleaner and healthier way to live that does not have to cost the earth, pun intended. As a scientist, it's not my place to judge, simply to inquire, gather data, and formulate a hypothesis. But if I can educate people in turn, and they can pass this knowledge on to family, friends, colleagues, etc., then this is a great bonus. I intend to execute the Carbon Clinic by attending the Horsham Hub on our monthly open day and hold sessions to any passers-by who wish to discuss their household activities. I've been very kindly set up with an email address to manage this process, which is carbonclinic@sussexgreenliving.co.uk. Please come and say hello if you wish to learn more or just have a chat. And after the initial interview, I will analyse the results, and over the course of the months in between my day job and university, I'm currently studying a master's degree, I will provide tailored feedback with the links to useful websites and media that can explain things in maybe slightly better detail than I can fit in a half-hour discussion with the candidate in our Green Living Hub. So, and more user-friendly ways that I can hopefully process through an Excel spreadsheet, and again, find some trends and demographics that we can focus on. So yeah, we'll look for key demographics such as age range, geological residence locations. I'd like to record household income, but I think that could be quite intrusive, in which I understand this. Though the Small Green Steps survey has had a brilliant way of getting insight into local sustainability practices, through one-to-one interviews, I hope to gather more qualitative data, primary data rather, which, although the drawbacks of this will be that I will not be able to gather such a large population sample as a survey, which is why the Sussex Green Living Small Green Steps survey was brilliant. We can get larger populations. I can delve deeper into them and find whys and find trends. So by investigating the demographics mentioned before, I can assess sociological trends in sustainability more accurately, and hopefully we can pinpoint more of our target audience. I hope the mission statement has answered any questions of the goals and methods of the Carbon Clinic. But again, if you'd like further clarification, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Christian. That's fantastic. Sorry, I realised I've overrun in the very beginning. Christian is referring to our Sussex Green Hub, which is on the last Saturday of every month. So yeah, Christian is going to be there from the 29th of January onwards. So yeah, look forward to meeting as many of you as possible. So I'd like to hand over now to Jeff from Greening Stenning.
Right, let me share my screen. Carrie asked me to say a few words about something we're doing here in Stenning, which is along rather similar lines. We've, in the last couple of weeks, we've launched a new online survey, which we're calling the Climate Action Tracker. And I just like to sort of talk you through where we got to on this and show some early results. I mean, the reason we did this is we're doing loads in Stenning. We've been really cranking things up across Stenning, Bramber and Beeding over the last year. I have to say, with a lot of help from you, Carrie, we've got a repair cafe off the ground. We're doing TerraCycle. We're doing transport things. We're organising marches. We're doing verges. So there's a tremendous amount going on with help from a whole load of volunteers. But how do you actually measure what impact you're having? And it's something which one of the members of our energy group asked us in a meeting, and I had a really hard time answering it. We can measure some things. For example, we can obviously measure how many items we've repaired or sharpened at the repair cafe, but a lot of the things are much harder to pin down. So we came up with the idea of doing an annual survey, which we call the tracker. To try and get a bit of a feel for this. And it's a simple online survey. We decided to keep it simple. So we selected 16 different actions, which vary, you see on the left-hand side, from taking simple energy saving steps at home, insulation, solar panels, but it covers a lot of the biggies and also some of the more obvious small steps. And the survey asks to look back at the previous year. What did you actually do last year? And then it says, what are you planning to do this year? So the idea is that it'll be something we'll probably run in January every year, and at the sort of New Year's resolution time, and to be a bit of a prompt. And let me just show you, we've only had 40 results so far, so it's early days. but this is the kind of graph you can come up with from this. So the green bar means, yes, I've done this. And the red bar means no. But it's important to say there's quite a few yellows there, which is either I've done this previously or it doesn't apply to me because, for example, I'm never going to own a car, or I don't own my flat, so I can't put insulation in the roof. You'll see that just early results show that actually encouraging wildlife in my garden was the most widespread action this year. But people have done more repairing, reusing, recycling. I think thanks very much to the work we've been doing. And if you go down, you can see some of the familiar actions which would be on many of your lists, going down to the bottom. And right down the bottom, you'll see installed a heat pump. That was me. So there's one person from the sample so far who's done that this year. But this is, it gives you a bit of an indicator of what's going on. And looking to 2022, this is what people are planning to do this year. And you'll see it's a lot of the same. I haven't done a complete comparison, but the order is rather similar. So people, I think a lot of the easy steps come to the top of the list, not surprisingly. But it's very good to see so many people saying they're going to do this, either definitely or maybe. So this gives us, this is early days on the survey, but it gives us a bit of a feel for it. And just to thinking about how the useful this is and the strengths and weaknesses, it's clearly self-selecting audience. And this is, we're publicizing this as widely as we can, but it's going to be going to people who are already kind of on our mailing list, or who are kind of fairly kind of already thinking about this kind of thing. And it's not scientific in a kind of a Chris Whitty sense. These numbers aren't terribly robust. And one of the challenges is with all these questions, there's room for ambiguity. So you can say, I've done energy saving steps in my house, but what do you mean? That could be small or medium or big. And the problem is, without going into incredible detail of precisely what you did, how big your house is, all that sort of stuff, it's very hard to, you can't really answer a question very cleanly. So there's, some of the questions are a little bit ambiguous. On the other hand, I think these results are still really useful, giving you a good indicator of what's changing. We can repeat it every year. I think it creates an interesting story we can tell about, you know, we can write press releases, we can do blogs about this. And I'm hoping that in the process of filling it out, we're going to nudge people to think about these things. So it's like saying, oh, well, I did do this last year, but being honest, I could do more next year. And finally, although this isn't kind of a primary reason, it gives us some ammunition to use with our funders to show what action we're having. So it provides some I'm going to go back in. It provides some useful data, and the data is rather hard to get your hands on. So let me leave it there, but that's gives you a flavour of the what we're doing. There's a link down the bottom there if you want to have a look. I would urge you not to fill it in, actually, because it would throw our data off if we have loads of green enthusiasts from Horsham and other areas taking part. But you can have a little snoop at it in case you want to borrow some ideas.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was absolutely fantastic. And as I said, all these slides and the video will be available as soon as possible after this meeting. I'd now like to welcome Jerry Hooper from the more newly formed Greening Cowfold. You're Jerry.
Right, hope you can see that.
Yeah, that's great. I am running slightly behind, Jerry. So
Slightly behind what?
But behind the sort of agenda if we're to finish at 7. But you carry on. I was
yeah, sure. Okay. So basically, these slides are just ones I put together for the show that we did in July. But just a few of the sort of golly gosh numbers. 1/3 of all food globally is wasted. That's 1.3 billion tons, equivalent to 10 billion tons of CO2. 4 times more CO2 than all the airplanes in the world. So just food waste basically is seems to me is something quite important. 70% of global fresh water is used for agriculture. Most of that's in lands where they don't have much water, And in the lands where we have lots of water, like us, we then throw all the way through the food away. So that's really quite immoral. Recent Horsham mag you'll have seen, I'm sure, they say 42% of all the waste they collect is actually food waste in the general household bins, which is absolutely horrendous. Most food waste, as you can see there, is food waste at home. 4.5 million tons thrown away. And then looking a bit more specifically, while lots of people acknowledge climate change, not many are recognizing, by comparison, that food waste is an issue. So, as an example, 3 million glasses of milk thrown down the drain each day. That's the equivalent of all the milk from 36,000 cows. Now, what the reasons is another matter, but it's just, again, immoral. Odd slices of bread, you know, only throw away 1 or 2 slices a day. Well, in 1 year, 1 or 2 slices a day could encircle the earth 28 times. That's an awful lot of bread. 20 million slices thrown away every day. That could be breakfast for 10 million people. So that's sort of thrown some questions up for us to think, what is someone's footprint? How do you measure food waste? How can we change habits? And there was a particular website that we found where some of this stuff came from. So what we've done, we're just developing a chart to try and engage people. So this is the very first version of it. So we haven't done much. That was just the background. Now we're trying to see what can we do to get people aware. So we come up with this chart. It's all in colours quite deliberately because we're starting with children. We want to make it interesting for them to fill in. We've just got 4 or 5 of our own people to fill it in for starters to see whether the chart works. And the idea is you look at what you're throwing away. So is it meats, vegetables, leftovers, or if you cook too much, it's still sitting in the pan? What type of food is it? Dairy, in processed foods, dairy, meat, ready meals, snacks, etc. And then each day, this one shows Sunday, you say, okay, this is what we've not used. What have we done with it? We put it into compost, put it into household waste, or we got rid of it some other way. So milk may have gone down the sink, or of course you may have fed it to the dog, or in one case, the sheep, which is, you know, at least reusing it. So we've tried that chart out with just a couple of people. And what we've come up with, and the numbers are relevant, please don't look at the numbers, because from 5 people, all of whom have got our sort of ethos already, you're not going to get any numbers which are meaningful, but just shows how the numbers can work. And we've also learned already that we can simplify the chart before we actually go to a wider audience. And what we're going to do, Carrie, is we're going to ask whether you'd like to launch this at the school.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, we need to agree with the school first, of course, but the idea is to say to them, right, there's the chart, be a modified version of that chart, and can we get every one of those households, there's 120 pupils, but it's about 80 or 90 households, each to fill in a chart for 7 consecutive days. Because each day's got a day on it, you can start any day you like and just keep going around the circle until you get to the full week. We want to work out what is being wasted and where it's being disposed. There's 2 elements that we're coming at to try and get this. But as I said, the numbers on this are completely irrelevant. Just don't look at them. But from the numbers we have, just to see how it works, we would see that 86.6% of the stuff that was thrown away went into compost and 8.9% went into household. Well, it's an awful lot better than the 42% that Horsham is seeing. But when we got 4 or 5 souls already sold on the idea, you're not going to get representative numbers. And the 4.5% in other, that was mostly stuff that went to the dogs and the sheep, or in one case, there's a glass of milk that went down the sink because it had gone off. And then what type of food, you can see most of it in this survey was vegetable. And a lot of that would have been vegetable peelings and the like, stuff which you can't really necessarily reuse in terms of eating it. But certainly you can make good use of it if it's going into composting, and you can see most of it on this trial is. Some of it was animal products, i.e. meats, or could be fish. And then leftovers, obviously one particular person who had one particular disaster on a day, so there was a big chunk of leftovers. So again, numbers don't count really, but that's the sort of approach we're thinking of taking. What I really wanted to do was to get ideas from you tonight. That's my last slide. Anyone got any ideas how we could make that easier, better, or whatever? That's the reason for showing it, because there's no useful data here except in those run-in slides to show what a big problem it is as to how we go forward. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
You want to raise a hand or something?
If you stop sharing your screen, we at this stage.
Oh, I got it. Yes, okay, stop sharing.
Yeah, at this stage we'll ask if there's any questions. Yeah, I was just going to actually add. So Cowfold is a fine example of how we've worked really closely with the new Greening Stenning group. So we supported their event in the summer with the Inspiration Eco Station, the Milk Float. We launched with Jerry and one of the other parish councillors the single-use plastic TerraCycle recycling in the village. I delivered the assembly, as Jerry was talking about, and the bins are outside the school gates. So bearing in mind, a lot of the parents, obviously, they mainly live in the village. We're working with the children who are really good at this environmental communications with the parents. So happy to come back very much, Jerry, and work with the school once again. So Nicola, is there any questions for Christian, Jeff, Jerry, or myself that you'd like to bring to the?
Well, the only question that we've had so far was Clive asking, what's the green chat?
Oh, okay. So I can explain that. If anyone else would like to ask a question, either pop your hand up or pop it in the chat. So Stephen from Southwater would like to in a second. Green Chat, Clive, is Horsham District Council have got a shop on the High Street in West Street in Horsham, and it's a sort of a new type of shop. It's called the Pop-Up Horsham Shop. It's a collaborative shop where new traders, people that are wanting to test out the high street, are able to take a small space and sell their wares. And we were given some space for a display. And every Friday since the beginning of November, we've been going in with Simon, who's one of our Repair Cafe volunteers, who's here tonight. Simon has been there in the shop window pulling in the punters. And I've been there probably frightening the punters away, talking to them, answering questions. So yeah, it's been a great opportunity to be on the high street and just with a pavement sign outside. So that's what we've been doing.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else, Nicola?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, well, shall we continue unless there is anyone else? If
Stephen has a question. Yeah.
So can I ask a question or make a comment?
Yes, go for it, Stephen.
Okay. I was just thinking about the survey and the forms and things. You need to distinguish who you want to communicate with. If it's the oldies at the back of church on a Sunday morning, pencil and paper and forms and ticking boxes is what they'll respond to. If you want to communicate with my daughter and her children, you need to be thinking iPads and iPhones for
social, yeah,
for collecting and inputting data. That's just my initial reaction. I think it's a good idea. If we wasted the sort of volume of food that you're talking about, I've had a wife for 51 years. She wouldn't be here. We eat what we don't eat. We burn the bones on the wood burning stove behind me. We burn the fish bones and the meat bones. And the vegetable peelings get composted and dug in for the next year's crop. So that's me. Thank you.
And Jerry, there is a couple of comments about if there was any alternatives to weighing the food waste. And, yes, I think that could be clarified a bit.
So Jerry, is that something you?
I think the trouble is if the data is going to be useful, it needs to be in a consistent format. And the thing is, each day, what we're doing, the way the form is a lot of space. So when you've got something you're throwing away, you weigh it there and then throw it away, and you just put down 23 grams or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, you add up those 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers and then put them in the total. And that has worked with the 5 people, including one was a particular family that we've done so far. But how else do you quantify it?
Well, somebody else is talking about approximating the volume. I mean, it could be easier in handfuls. What will it put some people off, the idea of having to weigh it? Whether it could be, measured in cups or handfuls or some other way of measurement that makes it easier for people to want to do it.
Okay, thanks. I'll think about that. But to be honest, I think, I threw away 3 fish skins. I'm not going to say that's half a handful, a quarter of a handful. So I think weighing is a very easy way. Just keep your bowl there, chuck all your stuff in it. We've seen it's mostly vegetable stuff on the scales. We don't ask you to ask what sort of stuff it is. It's just vegetable as total on the scales. I honestly think that's the easiest way, because assuming you've got some scales in the kitchen.
If I come to the school in Cowfold and we do an assembly and get the children and families involved, we can get them to do your survey and ask for feedback at that sort of trial point. But maybe this is something we can talk about in a little bit more detail.
We've got another question as well from Councillor Elaine Kipp from Pulborough.
What's the question?
I don't know.
I was just going to make a comment, actually. I agree. To weigh the things is going to put people off, because people, particularly the younger people, are very, very busy trying to juggle jobs, children, general lifestyle. It's I know it's only a small detail, but it's an actual added thing. Whereas you're quite right, if you've got another measurement like a handful, I think I agree, that would be much more straightforward, because you've got to think of the lifestyle of people. I would also like to see, dare I say, more education in using leftovers, and like sell-by dates is common sense. Years ago, we didn't have sell-by dates. And I know from somebody who used to work in the Food Standard Agency, she used to say they're really only a guide. Like a creme caramel would say, go off today, but you could use it tomorrow. Whereas somebody would say, oh no, we can't use it. Yes, you can. It's common sense. You taste a little bit before you give it to a child, say, you would know if it's gone off. You would smell it, whatever. It's that sort of education.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Elaine. I think certainly food waste and love food, hate waste is something that we should put on our agenda. Melanie from Billy Green.
I put in the chat, I think, Jerry, I think it's a great idea. And I think going into the schools could be really productive. And then carrying on from the points that have just been raised about weighing the waste and people perhaps not being keen to do that. I think if you can really try and embed it with the teachers and try to tie it into their maths, then actually then they will be willing to weigh it. If you can sell it to the teacher as a kind of a project, and the children then they weigh it, then they're going to amass all the classes statistics, they're going to turn it into some pie charts, some graphs, it becomes a real maths project. Then I think that issue about weighing it is good. The weighing is integral to the
more that we can make it.
That's exactly where we're coming from.
Yeah, brilliant. Because the teachers are so busy, but if you can help their curriculum and get what you want out of it at the same time, then I think that's the way to go. So, and I'd be really interested to hear the results and how you get on with it.
Fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, that's exactly what we want to do, and that's why we started with the school and on that sort of basis. So it's really meaningful to them and it's proper data.
Perhaps this is something, because we're running out of time. Perhaps this is something that with our Sussex Green Ideas meeting we could focus on in March or April and work on it in the meantime. And maybe, Jerry, I can come along to your school in Cowfold and we can do a session and then come back to this group maybe in April. Can I move on? I think I'd quite like to move on at this stage. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time. So if I may just share my screen again. At this point, I wanted to just move on to how Sussex Green Living would really like to up our game and work more closely with the villages and the councils. Oh, sorry, let's see if I can move on, in 2022. So last year, as you saw, we worked in lots and lots of the villages and the districts across West Sussex, the villages in Horsham District. We already have got invitations to a school in Horsham and 3 village events, actually pretty much over the Platinum Jubilee weekend. We're really keen to put forward a grant application to support the idea of a regrow and repair roadshow. So taking the float out to the villages and to the schools, as we did last year, but at the moment we're adapting the displays on the float to focus more on water and resource conservation, recycling, and then putting quite a bit of emphasis on growing popular and easy to grow vegetables, salads and herbs in small spaces. We're going to make it an activity so people actually can come along and plant up. We can talk to them while they're planting up, and they can take some freebie plants away. We're also subject to grant application, going to buy a gazebo and have a repair space allowing at the events, and if the villages are interested, we'll actually have alongside the float like a repair gazebo where people can come and talk to us. We might be able to do some fixes, depends on electricity and the circumstances, but certainly what we'd be wanting to do is say to people, there are repair cafes. There is a repair cafe in Sterling, there is one in Storrington, there is one in, and points people to their nearest repair cafe, and also sow seeds for the idea of more repair cafes within the villages. And maybe it will be like in Billingshurst and Slinfold, and I think possibly in Pulborough, this sort of cross between a men's shed and a repair cafe. But that's what we want to take out. So it may well be that can we come to your village with the float and the repair element, or it might be the full Bright New Future, the road show with the lorry, Nicola Keith, as I explained and showed earlier. I will include a video which illustrates what we've done with the roadshow and the float this year in the email that I send out. So my ask really at this stage is, with those of you that are present, is do you have an event coming up within your village where we can bring our Inspiration Eco Station and our amazing, inspiring volunteers who really want to share the solutions to the climate crisis. And another idea to just show with you is at the bottom of this slide, is the idea of maybe a district-wide communications campaign where Sussex Green Living, with maybe a digital volunteer within each village, could work with the environmental groups or the volunteers that we have in the villages, the parish council, the district council, to run a district-wide communication campaign. I mean, those are a few examples that I've put. Nothing is set in concrete. Tonight for us was a way of engaging with you, our stakeholders, to find out, how we could perhaps support the growth of your outreach, and the growth of more environmental groups within the villages. So yeah, that's that's really, I think, it for me. Oh, the only other thing I did want to say, while I've got lots of the people that help us with the TerraCycle recycling in the villages, is we know that there is a problem and that you're receiving 40 to 50% extra single-use plastics in the bins, which is requiring you to empty the bins twice as often, to do twice as much sorting. And we know that that's because people are learning, mainly probably since COP26, about the supermarkets and the fact that the supermarkets are now able to recycle pretty much all the single-use plastics. And we know that you're getting them in our mutual bins in your villages. So we are working on a plan to address this, and it probably will involve the float, the Inspiration Eco Station, going out to the supermarkets in liaison with the managers of the big supermarkets to engage with the general public, and get some communications out there to stop all those extra plastics coming in your bins.
Yes, so next Sussex Green Ideas, Wednesday the 16th of February. I gave you a flavour of what Sussex Green Ideas is about at the start of the meeting. But the next one, we're going to be talking about, well, the idea of community energy Horsham. There's lots of community energy groups popping up around the UK. What do? They look for roofs, medium-sized roofs, tennis court-sized or bigger, so not really home roofs. And they try and organise solar to go on those roofs. That's a win for the owner of the roof, because he'll get, or he or she will get cheaper electricity. Another win for them is that they don't have to pay for the solar to go on the roof, because it's funded within the community, either the local Horsham community or further afield in the southeast. It's a win for those people because they get a 4% return on their money, on their investment in the solar that goes onto those roofs. And it's a win for the planet in that there's less electricity coming from gas-fired power stations. So that's the idea. That's what we hope to do. If you're interested in hearing more about that and just trying to tease out some of the detail of that, please come along on Wednesday, the 16th of February at 7 o'clock. Over to Nicola, I think.
Yeah, well, just before I hand over to Nicola, just to say that I think probably our March Sussex Green Ideas meeting will be revisiting recycling, waste reduction, e-waste, but hopefully we'll come back to you and with feedback as to how we're getting on with communicating about the single-use plastics from the supermarket. And well, we've got a few more minutes before Nicola ends with wise words. Are there any other questions before Nicola does a sort of conclusion?
Oh, I like this. I'm being really put on the spot, it sounds like. I'll have to live up to something. But just to go through the chat, if anyone's not keeping up with that, Jill from Henfield is saying that they're using oleo, and that they are advertising for someone to go to Tesco's to collect food to be distributed. So that's something, you know, to be able to kind of, I mean, supermarkets do give out a lot of food. It just needs the distribution to it be taken to where it needs to go. What else have we got here? So Phil's saying that July to September seems a bit late for grow your own. Exactly. We do want to kind of be encouraging people earlier on in the season to maybe he suggests April would be a better idea. Cowfold has its own little free pantry where you can leave excess food, plus they collect food from the supermarkets. So this is something that, you know, all villages can look into doing, is this kind of food sharing, tools sharing what, you know, we can share with the rest of our community. And yeah, talking about still some schools are encouraging the use of single-use plastics. Well, so many schools don't even have recycling bins in them. So yeah, we've still got quite an issue with schools. And that's something that I really encourage everybody to ask their local schools. Do you have recycling bins? I mean, not even TerraCycle, but a number of schools don't even have the council recycling bins. So it's something which has come more apparent to me as I've been speaking with schools, how few actually have. So what's this last one here? Yes, Carrie, this is a big problem. Good to hear there's a plan. Would be great to also have a Zoom for the village single-use recyclers. Yes, I know in Pulborough here as well, they've been trying all sorts of things to try and stop that additional plastic. And so many people just don't know that they can take it all back to the supermarkets.
Actually, I'd like to add, because we've got a couple of minutes at the end here, I thought I've been gathering all the projects, obviously, for those statistics that I presented earlier, which I'll share with you. And there are other projects and other initiatives that would be brilliant to share. I thought in Amberley, Hazel, who's a parish councillor with us tonight from Amberley, and there are great things going on. It's a very small village, and I thought it was really novel that they've got a bus stop, a covered bus stop, and in that bus stop on a set day of the week they put one box for TerraCycle and one box for the supermarket single-use plastics. They let people drop it off there, and then they use their village bus to actually deliver the single-use plastics to Tesco's, give it back to them in Pulborough, I believe it is. And I thought that was really, you know, very innovative for a small village, one way of, you know, dealing with the problem and helping the community rather than everyone driving around. So there are lots of brilliant things which we will share within the spreadsheet. So yeah, I mean, we could go. Are there any other points, questions that have come up, or otherwise, should we have wise words from Nicola and go and have a gin and tonic?
Really well, and Karen's reminding everybody about the Horsham Community Fridge, which are doing a great job giving out lots of food as well. So,
yeah, and they are one of our partners at the Sussex Green Hub. So at the Sussex Green Hub, last Saturday of every month, it's our wonderful Horsham Repair Cafe. We provide a bottle refill service for personal hygiene products and household cleaning products. We have we'll have Christian there doing the Carbon Watchers Clinic. We have Karen, who's here tonight, from Horsham Eco Churches, Alison from Transition Horsham, and Horsham Community Fridge. And this next Saturday, on the 29th of January, they've advertised that they're going to be there. So we are going to have lots of extra people coming to take food from the community fridge. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on. So I say thank you so much to all our wonderful, incredible volunteers that are here today, that help with Sussex Green Living and helping the villages. You're doing an absolutely amazing job. And many of the volunteers for the single-use plastic see it as the first step on the ladder to moving their communities to a more sustainable way of living. These groups very often attract more volunteers, and as seen in Billy Green, other projects evolve, you know, and it acts as a magnet for people that want to do more. So well done, absolutely everybody. And I'm going to hand over finally to Nicola for wise words.
well, Heather, it's so great, first of all, to see Carrie bringing together all of the village. And I think, first of all, we all need to give Carrie a jolly big pat on the back for what you've achieved so far, and seeing, you know, the history of Sussex Green Living and where it is now, and how many groups around the place are all inspiring each other. And that is really what it's about. It's about, we learn from each other and what's the next thing that we can do, because, you know, they are all these little steps, and we're all learning every day what else we can do. And I think this idea of also moving past what's sustainable to actually, we don't want to just survive, you know, we want to thrive on this planet. And what does that really mean? And how can we take the places where we live with us? And so, yes, a massive part of that is education, being able to show up and, you know, lead by example and get other people, you know, teaching their friends and families. So I mean, I take my hat off to everybody that's, you know, already kind of doing their bit, but there's so much more. So what Carrie and myself have been kind of coming up with is a plan for what would a resilient community look like? You know, what would you be doing in a really functioning vision of the future? And so often people don't have a vision of the future. We are stuck with this kind of apocalyptic worldview of the climate and ecological breakdown. And it's really vital that we can see what we want for our villages. So, you know, within the councils there, you know, having this kind of this plan for a thriving future. So this is really how it starts, by us coming together, sharing good practice, inspiring, and hopefully, you know, there might even be a little bit of competition there, seeing what other villages are doing and seeing if, you know, we can all kind of like take that baton and run with it a little bit more. And it does feel that, you know, we are at a time now that whatever we're doing is great, but we still need to do more. And so that's why working together is so important. So once again, thank you, Carrie. And I did suggest to Carrie that maybe we can burn a bit of bandwidth for a photo. And it is really important when we do Zooms to turn videos off, because when they're not necessary, but it is nice to have a visual recording of everyone being present for a photograph at the end for Carrie to be able to post on Sussex Green Living of, you know, all these amazing people that have attended and listened, and for us to all see each other and have a bit of a social. Let's imagine, you know, we've all got gin and tonic with us now.
Come on, Mila, turn on your camera.
we're having some kind of green drinks right now, and you know, imagining that we're all together, and hopefully, you know, it won't be long until in the summer when you know, we can all be outside and actually meet, you know, IRL, as the youth say, in real life. And so I look forward to that, when we can actually have some more in-person meetings.
I don't think everyone's got their camera on, but I'll let them get away with it, because I'm sure I'm sure it's time that everyone should go. But thank you so much. Thank you, Nicola. What I failed to say is we are writing a 3-year plan to apply for bigger grants so that we can do more, because we need to do more, and there is more demand for our services. And yeah, we've got to, so what we want to do is work together, and we are stronger in numbers. So I will be sending you an email as soon as possible with the links to the blog, to the video, to the assets, so you can see more details about what the villages are doing, with some questions to find out whether you would like to get involved in a district-wide communications campaign, and how we can work better together. So thank you all so very much, and lovely to see you all. And we will
just to jump in there as well, and if you're not already a member of the South East Climate Alliance, then you can sign up as an individual or as a group and a village, and through Seeker, you know, it is a really good way of all sharing together. So if you're not already members, then, and please do look at the South East Climate Alliance website. There's a lot of information on there which can be used not just for individuals, but for parish councils. So it's a good place to start to have that guidelines of, you know, what we all need to be doing. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody.